Chodesh Shvat. That's the topic today. So we're standing a few days before Rosh Chodesh Shvat, and I really want to talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim specifically, and then somehow connected to the Ilonos, to the tree, which, as we all know, is Tu B'Shvat. We pass like Beis Hillel, is Rosh Hashanah Ilonos. So the pasuk in Parshas Devarim mentions Ki b'chipazon otzeis bnei Yisrael mitzrayim. The reason we eat matzah on Pesach is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim hastily. And we all know the very, very famous question of the Shlach Kadosh, why? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu take Am Yisrael out of Mitzrayim hastily? And the answer that he gives is also a very famous answer, which I'm sure we all recall and remember, and that is because Am Yisrael were a Memtet Shari Tumah, and if they would have been there just for one more minute, they would have fell to Nun Shari Tumah, and as we all know, from Nun Shari Tumah there is no way back. And the question I ask, and I'm sorry that this question sounds a little bit like a kfira question, but the question is, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Let HaKadosh Baruch Hu start 10 days earlier, when they're at 47 Shari Tumah, and then take Am Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, not b'chipazon. It doesn't seem that the Shla really answers the essential question of why b'chipazon. And what I would like to suggest is that chipazon is an essential part of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And maybe in order to demonstrate this and explain this, I want to connect to the another very famous chinuch regarding the Shoresh HaMitzvah of Mitzvah Sfiras HaOmer. Says the chinuch in Mitzvah Shin Vav. What is the philosophical explanation of Mitzvah Sfiras HaOmer? Says the chinuch, obviously it's the bridge between Yetzias Mitzrayim to Kabbalas HaTorah. Says the chinuch, it's coming to explain to us that the only reason we got out of Mitzrayim is in order to get to Torah. And the whole message of Yetzias Mitzrayim is Kabbalas HaTorah. Then the chinuch asks another question. If that's so, why do we start counting Sfiras HaOmer on the second night of Pesach? We should start counting on the first night of Pesach. Answers the chinuch that Yetzias Mitzrayim is important enough to be on its own. And also here, I'm sorry that I'm about to ask the kfira question again. Take two, by the way, two kfira questions, remember that. Why in the world you just finished a second ago to tell us that there's no value in Yetzias Mitzrayim and the only reason we came out of Mitzrayim was Kabbalas HaTorah? So why do you say to me now that the reason we start counting Sfiras HaOmer on the second night is because Yetzias Mitzrayim is important enough to have its own day? It's not important enough. It's only there because of Kabbalas HaTorah. My answer is the same exact answer. Yetzias Mitzrayim has to be separate. Why is that so? Because when you're in Mitzrayim, you can't start thinking about Kabbalas HaTorah. If I would tell the people in Mitzrayim, let's get out of Mitzrayim so we can be Mekabel Torah, they're failing. Their understanding would be, what are you talking about? Let's stay here. It's secure. We have a job. Everything organized. Everything is safe. Okay, it's not a great job, but we're alive. We're eating. We get our food. We work hard, and everything is decent. Only after one individual comes out of Mitzrayim could an individual feel and connect, okay, now what am I doing with this? Now, how do I deal with this? Now, where do I get to? And I think that that's a tremendous yesod, even in our individual avodas Hashem. There are two steps. There are two stages. One stage and one step is getting out of Mitzrayim. The other stage is, now that I'm out of Mitzrayim, let me build towards Kabbalas HaTorah. And I think that that's Pshata b'chipazon. And in individuals of avodas Hashem, we see the same thing constantly. When a person is in a struggle, and in a profound and difficult struggle, if he thinks to himself, what would be the best for me? His answer is always going to be a negative one. But if a person succeeds to move himself from the troubling state, to move himself outside of Mitzrayim, and then says, okay, now what? Then usually he's able to start building himself and moving himself in the right direction. First, out of Mitzrayim b'chipazon. Then, now, we're ready to move towards Kabbalas HaTorah. First, Pesach on its own right. Yeah, it's the reason we're getting out of Mitzrayim, the reason that we have Pesach is because Kabbalah Satorah. But first, we count the first day alone. We don't count Sfiras HaOmer. Only the day afterwards do we start counting and building ourselves 49 steps up towards our Kabbalah Satorah. An individual wakes up in the morning, tries to figure out, is it good for him to go to Binyan? Or he's so tired, he hardly slept last night, and therefore Minyan might not be the best. Let me sleep another couple of hours and I'll daven b'yechidus or whatever it might be. What is the value of tefillah b'tzibur if I'm going to be so tired and fall asleep anyways? Usually an individual in that case, his decision is going to be, okay, let me get another half an hour of sleep. It's better for me. Or sometimes fall asleep actually before he actually makes a decision. But when an individual understands and realizes, first, out of here. Now, let me get dressed. Wash the Engavasa, get dressed. Go to shul, and right before I walk into shul, ask myself, should I daven now in Minyan or should I go back to bed? In that case, most people will decide to go ahead and daven in Minyan. First, out of Mitzrayim, now that I'm out of Mitzrayim, I could start counting and trying to visualize Kabbalah Satorah. By the way, this is also true in an emotional challenge. Any person that makes a decision in life when he's on the floor, when he's broken, when things are not going well, when they're difficult for him, he usually has a bad decision. Because at that point, he only sees darkness. He only sees Mitzrayim. He doesn't succeed on seeing anything else. Also, when we want to connect this to Tu B'Shvat, to Rosh Hashanah Lanos, to a tree, it's exactly the same thing. If a farmer, when he plants a seed in the ground, would actually figure out and think to himself, what am I dealing with? What am I challenging? What am I really facing right now? Is this really going to turn into something so great? A tree, and not only a tree, a fruitful tree, something which is giving over peros and has an extended life. Then the facts in front of him will be very, very depressing. There's ground, there's a pit, there's a seed. How in the world is this going to turn into something so tremendous and so amazing? Obviously here we understand clearly with our eyes, it's almost in our vision, that all he has to do is get through step number one. He's got to plow, he's got to plant, he's got to put the seed in the ground, he's got to water it, and then, Be'ezra Hashem, after it starts growing, it will be able to go through all the steps and really get to a point to be a fruitful tree. So I think that is the yesod that we can understand, both from the parshios that we're dealing with and relating towards Yetzias Mitzrayim, also to the Tu B'Shvat, which is Rosh Hashanah La'ilanos, and also towards the concept of our individual avodas Hashem. By the way, over the last 100 years, Tu B'Shvat became a very Zionistic holiday as well. And that very Zionistic holiday is very interesting. Why is that so connected to Medinat Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael? It's again the same concept. If in the beginning of the Zionistic movement, the people would have sat down and would have said, where is this going to get us to? Then the decision would be, it's a non-starter. It doesn't even make sense. Why would we go on with this? It's such a dream. It's not reality. But here they decided to really, with tremendous yata d'shmaya, they decided to move ahead and really take it to the next step. And look at us, close to 70 years later, here in Medinat Yisrael, in yeshiva, succeeding and really working through this process. So don't always look at all the challenges that you have in front of you, because if you intellectually analyze them, frequently your decision is going to be, it's a non-starter. Let me stay in Mitzrayim. It's not worth to stretch and work. Realize that if Mitzrayim is not the place for you to be, move along, jump ahead, and then Be'ezus Hashem, you go up the 49 steps of Sfiras HaOmer and be able to reach your individual and Klal Yisrael's Kabbalah Satorah. Great to talk to you guys. Hatzlacha. Have a beautiful winter. And Be'ezus Hashem, by the way, we will see you, those of you that can make it, and those of you who can make it, hopefully we'll see you anyways, on the Alumni Shabbaton on the second Shabbos in February. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Bye-bye.